Keep shut. You're at risk. Pretend I'm your husband, Mafia boss whispered. What happened next shocked her. She thought the worst part of the evening would be the mysterious invitation. Sienna Hale went to dinner and discovered she had a twin sister, 2 assassins on her trail, and a tattooed Mafia associate pretending to be her husband, all in the span of 3 minutes. The question wasn't how her life had become a spy thriller. The question was, how long had she been living someone else's script? Before you continue listening, please let know where you're watching from. Now back to the story. The tattooed stranger's hand clamped around her waist in the middle of Ristorante Luminosa, his whisper cold and precise against her ear. Keep shut. You're at risk. Pretend I'm your husband. Sienna's breath caught, not because of what he said, but because when she finally summoned the courage to look over his shoulder, she saw herself standing across the restaurant in the same white lace dress, directing federal agents like a conductor orchestrating chaos. Her twin, a sister she never knew existed. And the stranger? He wasn't there to save her. He was there to make sure she played her part in a trap 15 years in the making. If this story's got you hooked, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I've got another story coming your way that's just as thrilling, maybe even better. You definitely don't want to miss it. The invitation had arrived 3 days earlier, slipped under Sienna Hale's apartment door like a secret someone wanted told. Ristorante Luminosa. 8 p.m.
Come alone.
No signature, no explanation, no helpful context, just an address in downtown Baltimore and a time that felt less like a dinner reservation and more like an appointment with fate's twisted sense of humor. Sienna had held that card for 2 full days, turning it over in her hands like it might suddenly sprout answers. On day 3, curiosity, that magnificently stupid human impulse, won. She'd Googled the restaurant, 5 stars, astronomically expensive, the kind of place where they probably charged you for breathing their air, picked out her nicest dress, white lace with delicate straps that made her feel both elegant and exposed, and told herself this was either an elaborate prank or the beginning of something interesting. She'd been half right. Now she sat at table 7, surrounded by the soft clink of expensive silverware and the low murmur of conversations happening in that particular pitch wealthy people used when they wanted to sound important. The chandeliers overhead cost more than her car. The menu had prices that looked like phone numbers. She'd ordered the cheapest pasta dish available, a decision her checking account appreciated even if her pride didn't. That's when she noticed them. 2 men. Dark suits that probably had Italian names she couldn't pronounce. They stood near the bar, but their attention wasn't on their drinks or the beautiful people surrounding them. It was on her, with the focused intensity of wolves who'd spotted a lamb that had wandered too far from the flock. Sienna's stomach performed a complicated gymnastics routine. Her hand moved toward her phone, fingers already composing the mental text. How fast can an Uber get here, and should I just climb out the bathroom window? Then the stranger appeared. He materialized beside her table like he'd always been there, like reality had simply forgotten to render him until this exact moment. Bald head catching the amber light, geometric tattoo crawling up his neck in sharp, deliberate lines, 3-piece suit tailored with the kind of precision that suggested money and danger in equal measure. He moved with the confidence of someone who didn't ask permission. He simply took up space and dared the world to object. Keep shut, you're at risk. Pretend I'm your husband. The words came low, urgent, his breath warm against her ear as he leaned in close. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive with a name she definitely couldn't pronounce. His arm slid around her back, firm and possessive, positioning himself between her and the 2 men at the bar with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this before. Sienna's brain, that wonderful panic machine, immediately offered several options: scream, run, throw her wine in his face, demand to speak to a manager, possibly all of the above simultaneously. Instead, she froze like a computer that had received too many commands at once and decided a blue screen was the safest option. What? She started, her voice coming out smaller than intended. Smile, he interrupted, his tone carrying the kind of authority that made you obey before your conscious mind caught up. Like I just told you something charming about our honeymoon in Tuscany. Can you manage that? Or should I assume you've forgotten how to act like a human being? Sarcasm. The man was literally using his body to shield her from unknown danger and had the audacity to critique her performance. Sienna forced her lips into something that probably looked more like a grimace than a smile, but it was the best she could do under the circumstances. Who are you? Your husband, apparently. Try to keep up. His hand settled more firmly on her waist, thumb brushing against the lace of her dress. To anyone watching, they looked like lovers sharing an intimate moment. To Sienna, it felt like being caught in a very polite kidnapping. I don't have a husband, she hissed, trying to maintain the smile even as her heart performed an entire drum solo against her ribs. You do now. Congratulations on our whirlwind romance. He shifted slightly, angling them both so he could keep the two men in his peripheral vision. Listen very carefully, Sienna. Those two gentlemen at the bar? They're not here for the wine selection. They've been tracking you for 3 days, and if I hadn't shown up, you'd be leaving this restaurant in a body bag instead of through the front door. Her blood went cold. How do you know my name? I know a lot of things about you. For instance, I know you're a graphic designer who works from home. You have a cat named Pixel. You order Thai food every Friday night, and you've been alone your entire life because you were adopted at 6 months old with no information about your birth family. His voice remained calm, conversational even, like he was discussing the weather instead of the intimate details of her existence. I also know that everything you think you know about yourself is a carefully constructed lie. Sienna's world tilted sideways. What are you talking about? Not here. Not now. His grip tightened slightly as the two men began moving toward their table. In approximately 20 seconds, you're going to laugh like I've said the funniest thing you've ever heard. Then you're going to stand up, take my hand, and walk with me toward the kitchen exit. You will not look at them. You will not hesitate. You will trust me for the next 3 minutes, and then you can demand all the answers you want. Understood? No, I don't. 15 seconds. The two men were closer now, weaving between tables with practiced ease, their movements synchronized in a way that made Sienna's spine prickle with instinctive dread. 10 seconds. The stranger's hand moved to her shoulder, his thumb brushing against her collarbone in a gesture that looked affectionate but felt like a warning. This is not a negotiation, Sienna. This is survival. Choose now. She could see them in her peripheral vision, closing in like sharks who'd caught the scent of blood in pristine waters. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to scream, to do literally anything except follow the instructions of a tattooed stranger who knew things about her life that no one should know. But something in his voice, not the authority, but the edge of genuine concern beneath it, made her hesitate. Now. Sienna laughed. It came out higher and more hysterical than she'd intended, but the stranger worked with it, standing and pulling her to her feet in one fluid motion that looked choreographed. His hand enveloped hers, strong and steady and surprisingly warm, and they moved. She kept her eyes forward, fighting every instinct to look back, as they glided past tables of startled diners who probably thought they were witnessing some romantic gesture. The stranger guided her with subtle pressure on her hand, navigating around waiters and wine carts with the confidence of someone who'd mapped every exit before sitting down. They were 3 steps from the kitchen doors when Sienna finally gave in to the urge to look back. What she saw stopped her heart mid-beat. The two men weren't following them. They weren't moving at all. They were lying on the floor, surrounded by restaurant security and what looked like federal agents in dark suits that matched their grim expressions. Handcuffs glinted under the chandelier light. And standing in the center of it all, directing the operation with casual authority, was a woman who looked exactly like Sienna. Not similar. Not could be sisters. Exactly like her. Same face, same dark skin tone, same high cheekbones and full lips. Same hair, though styled differently, pulled back in a severe ponytail instead of the loose waves Sienna wore. Same white lace dress, though worn with the confidence of someone who'd chosen it as a costume rather than her nicest outfit. It was like looking into a mirror that had gained consciousness and decided to live its own life. What? The word came out as barely a whisper, all the air suddenly gone from Sienna's lungs. The stranger's grip on her hand tightened, not painful but grounding, keeping her from collapsing as her knees turned to water. "Breathe," he said quietly. "I know this is a lot, but I need you to breathe and keep walking." That's me." Sienna couldn't look away, couldn't process what her eyes were showing her. "That's my face. That's your twin sister," he confirmed, pulling her through the kitchen doors as the restaurant erupted into confused murmurs behind them. "Detective Sienna Hale, Undercover Operations, Federal Task Force, and the reason you're still alive. Though, judging by your expression, I'm guessing this is news to you." The kitchen was a chaos of stainless steel and shouting chefs, but the stranger navigated through it like he owned the place, pulling her toward a back exit. Sienna's mind was spinning, trying to catch up with reality and failing spectacularly. "I don't have a sister," she said, but even as the words left her mouth, she knew they sounded hollow. Because she'd just seen herself, another her, standing in that restaurant like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You didn't know you had a sister," he corrected, pushing open the back door into an alley, where a black SUV waited with its engine running. "There's a difference. Get in." What would you do if you discovered you had a twin sister you never knew existed, and that your entire life had been shaped by secrets she kept? Would you want to know the truth, even if it shattered everything you believed about yourself? Sienna didn't get in the SUV. She stood in the alley, her white dress catching the dim light from a flickering street lamp, and felt something inside her solidify. Fear was still there, thrumming through her veins like electricity, but it had company now, anger, sharp and clarifying. "No," she said. The stranger turned, one hand on the SUV's door handle, his expression caught between surprise and impatience. "Excuse me?" "I said no." Sienna crossed her arms, a gesture that probably looked more defensive than defiant, but it was the best she could manage while her entire worldview was busy shattering like dropped glass. "I'm not getting in some mysterious vehicle with a man I don't know, who somehow knows everything about my life, who just informed me I have a secret twin sister who apparently works for the federal government. I've seen this movie. It doesn't end well for the woman in the white dress." A muscle twitched in his jaw, the first crack in his composed facade. "Ms. Hale, this isn't a negotiation. You keep saying that. You keep telling me what to do, where to go, how to act." Her voice was rising now, words tumbling out faster than she could filter them. "Well, here's what I'm telling you. I'm done being moved around like a chess piece. If I have a sister, a twin sister, then she can come out here and explain this herself. If those men were really trying to kill me, then someone owes me an explanation that doesn't involve getting into a strange vehicle in a dark alley. And if you're actually trying to help me, then you can start by treating me like a person instead of a package that needs delivering." Silence fell between them, broken only by the distant sound of sirens and the hum of the SUV's engine. The stranger studied her with eyes that were startling against his pale skin. Not quite blue, not quite gray, the kind of color you couldn't name but wouldn't forget. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was small, barely a curve of his lips, but it transformed his entire face from dangerous to something almost human. "Fair enough," he said, and there was something in his tone that might have been respect. "You want answers? Let's get answers. But we do it inside, where there aren't security cameras recording every word, and where those agents won't think to look for you until your sister gives them the all-clear." He nodded toward the SUV. "This vehicle is registered to a shell company 3 layers deep. The windows are bulletproof. There's a first aid kit, water, and a phone charger. I'm offering you a mobile safe space to have the worst conversation of your life. Take it or leave it, but make the choice fast, because we have approximately 90 seconds before someone comes through that door looking for you." For a long moment, neither woman spoke. They just stared at each other, two halves of a whole that had been split before either could remember being complete. "Hi," Simone said finally, and her voice was Sienna's voice, exactly the same timbre and tone. "I know this is. I know. But we need to talk. Actually talk. And you deserve the full truth, not the abbreviated version." Sienna's hands were shaking. She clasped them together in her lap, trying to maintain some semblance of control. "Why now?" If you've been watching me for 32 years, why reveal yourself now? Because Volkov's people found you, Simone said simply. And because once they found you, it was only a matter of time before they tried to use you against me. I couldn't protect you from the shadows anymore. You needed to know what you were up against, needed to be able to make informed choices about your own safety.
She paused.
And because I was tired of watching your life from a distance. Tired of being your ghost. You could have told me before, Sienna said, and hated how her voice cracked. Years ago, when I was 18, 25, 30, you could have. Could I? Simone interrupted gently. Could I really? Hi, I'm the twin sister you never knew existed. Our birth father is Russian mob, and by the way, I've been stalking you your entire life for your own protection. How would that conversation have gone, Sienna? Would you have believed me? Or would you have called the police and gotten a restraining order? She had a point. God, she had a point, and Sienna hated it. I would have wanted a choice, Sienna said quietly. Even if it scared me. Even if I didn't understand. I would have wanted the choice to know you. Simone's expression crumbled, just for a second, a flash of raw pain that she immediately covered with professional composure. But Sienna saw it, recognized it, because she'd worn that same expression countless times when the loneliness got too heavy to carry alone. I know, Simone whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you. Turns out I was just protecting myself from having to admit that the sacrifice might have been for nothing if you rejected me anyway. Kovac cleared his throat. As touching as this is, we should probably move this reunion to somewhere more secure. The garage is fine for a quick conversation, but if we're doing the full emotional excavation, I'd prefer walls and a door that locks. He's right, Simone said, pulling herself together. I have a safe house about 20 minutes from here. It's clean, off the books, stocked with food and whatever else you might need. You can stay there while we figure out next steps. Next steps, Sienna repeated. You mean while you figure out how to protect me from an organization that wants me dead because of a father I never met? Something like that, yes. Sienna looked between them, her sister and this stranger, who wasn't quite a stranger anymore, and felt the weight of every choice that had led to this moment pressing down on her shoulders. Okay, she said finally. Okay, take me to the safe house. Tell me everything. And then she met Simone's eyes, her own reflection staring back at her. And then we figure out who the hell I actually am, because apparently I've been living someone else's story. Simone smiled, small and sad and hopeful all at once.
Deal.
Kovac started the engine. As they pulled out of the parking garage and back into the Baltimore night, Sienna caught sight of her reflection in the window, overlaid with Simone's in the back seat, two faces that were the same but had lived completely different lives.
Sisters, she thought.
I have a sister. It should have felt like finding something she'd lost. Instead, it felt like discovering she'd been incomplete all along and never knew it. The city lights blurred past, carrying them toward whatever came next. The safe house wasn't what Sienna expected. She'd imagined something sterile and cold, concrete walls, minimal furniture, the kind of place that felt temporary by design. Instead, Kovac pulled up to a renovated brownstone in a quiet neighborhood where trees lined the streets and porch lights glowed warm against the darkness. This is a safe house, Sienna asked as they climbed the front steps. The best kind, Simone said, unlocking the door with a key she produced from somewhere. Hidden in plain sight. Neighbors think I'm a consultant who travels for work. No one questions the irregular hours. Inside, the space was lived in. Comfortable furniture, books on shelves, photographs on walls that Sienna realized with a jolt were of her. Her college graduation. Her 25th birthday party. Moments from a life Simone had witnessed, but never been part of. You really were watching, Sienna whispered, stopping in front of a photo of herself laughing at something off-camera, completely unaware she was being documented. Always, Simone confirmed. It was all I could do. They settled in the living room, Sienna and Simone on opposite ends of the couch like mirror images afraid to get too close, Kovac in an armchair positioned where he could watch both of them and the door. Professional habit, Sienna supposed. So what happens now? Sienna asked. Those men are arrested, but you said there's an entire organization. There is, Simone admitted. But with tonight's arrests, we've cut off the head of their Baltimore operations. It'll take them months to reorganize, and by then, we'll have prosecuted enough of their leadership that you'll be low priority. A footnote instead of a target. And then I just go back to my life? Pretend this never happened. If that's what you want. Simone's voice was carefully neutral. You can go back to your apartment, your work, your routine. I'll make sure there's protection, distant, invisible, like it's always been. You'll be safe. But you'll still be in the shadows, Sienna said, still watching from a distance. If that's what you want, Simone repeated, but her eyes betrayed her hope. Sienna looked at her sister, this woman who wore her face, but carried years of sacrifice in the set of her shoulders. She thought about the life she'd lived, safe and normal and achingly lonely in ways she'd never been able to name. She thought about the photographs on the walls, evidence of love expressed through surveillance. What I want, Sienna said slowly, is to know you. Actually know you, not just the outline of the person who's been protecting me. I want Sunday dinners and stupid arguments about nothing. I want to hear about your life, your cases, whatever you can tell me. I want, her voice cracked. I want my sister. Is that allowed? Simone's composure finally shattered. Tears streamed down her face as she closed the distance between them, pulling Sienna into an embrace that felt like coming home to a place she'd never been. Yes, Simone whispered against her hair. Yes, that's allowed. That's always been allowed. I just didn't think you'd want it. They stayed like that, two halves finally whole, while Kovac tactfully studied his phone and pretended not to notice the crying. When they finally pulled apart, both wiping their eyes and laughing at their matching tear-streaked faces, Sienna felt something settle in her chest. Not completion, but the beginning of it. The promise of more. So, she said, trying for lightness, do I get to meet our grandmother? Or is she still orchestrating family separations from whatever retirement home she's in? Simone laughed, the sound watery but genuine. She died 5 years ago, but she left letters. One for each of us. Mine explained everything. Yours. She stood, walking to a desk and retrieving an envelope that looked worn from handling. Yours has been waiting. Sienna took the envelope with trembling hands. Her name was written on the front in handwriting she'd never seen, but somehow recognized as family. She didn't open it immediately. That felt like something private, something for later when the shock had worn off and she could process it properly. There's something else you should know, Kovac said, speaking for the first time in 20 minutes. Simone didn't hire me just for protection tonight. She hired me to train you if you want it. Basic self-defense, situational awareness, how to spot threats. Not to make you paranoid, but to make you prepared. And if I say no, then I invoice your sister for one very expensive dinner theater performance, and we part as friendly acquaintances, Kovac said with a slight smile. But if you say yes, I teach you how to never feel helpless again. Sienna considered this. Considered the woman she'd been when she walked into that restaurant. Naive, unprepared, a target who didn't even know she was in danger. Considered the woman she could become, aware, capable, someone who made choices instead of having choices made for her. When do we start? She asked. Kovac's smile widened. Simone, I like her. She's got spine. She's got my spine, Simone corrected. Technically, we share the genetic predisposition for stubbornness. Great, Sienna deadpanned. I've discovered I have a twin and inherited family stubbornness. What's next? Secret royal heritage. Just Russian mob connections, Simone said. Close enough. They laughed then, all three of them, and it felt absurdly normal given the circumstances. Like maybe this strange new family configuration, two sisters and a tattooed security consultant who made jokes at inappropriate times, might actually work. Later, after Kovac had left with promises to return tomorrow for lesson 1, Sienna and Simone sat together on the couch, shoulders touching, watching late-night television neither of them was really paying attention to. Thank you, Sienna said quietly. for keeping me safe all these years, even when I didn't know I needed it. Thank you for not hating me for it, Simone replied. I'm reserving the right to be angry later, once the shock wears off. Fair enough. I'll pencil in a sister argument for next week. We can fight about who gets to pick the restaurant. Sienna smiled, leaning her head against Simone's shoulder. Outside, Baltimore hummed with its usual nighttime symphony, sirens, traffic, the distant sound of someone's music playing too loud. But inside the brownstone, surrounded by photographs of a life watched from afar, two sisters sat together in the quiet. It wasn't the family Sienna had imagined. It wasn't the reunion she would have written. But it was real, and it was theirs, and sometimes that was enough. Sometimes danger wore your face and protected you from shadows you never saw coming. Sometimes pretending led to truth. And sometimes the greatest risk was choosing to trust, to hope, to let someone in even when every logical part of your brain screamed that you shouldn't. Sienna Hale had walked into a restaurant alone. She left with a sister, a story, and the beginning of understanding that safety wasn't about avoiding danger, it was about having someone stand beside you when danger came calling. Hey Simone, she said. Yeah. Next time you need bait for a federal operation, maybe just ask first? Simone laughed.
Deal.
No more surprise twin reveals during dinner. I appreciate that. They sat together as the night deepened, two halves of a whole finally learning what it meant to be complete. And in the morning, there would be training, answers, and the complicated work of building a relationship from scratch. But tonight, there was this: two sisters, one couch, and the revolutionary act of simply being together. It was enough. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as interesting and even more intriguing as can ever imagine. So, do check it out.